So today we're going to be doing a chit chat about this notebook, but there's some really interesting tech underneath, something I've personally never seen before. So also this one comes in a kind of boring box. There's not a lot of information about it, so let's open it up. Throughout the year we have been reviewing all kinds of different, let's say, devices, and particularly when it comes to laptops, I have seen a lot of affordable ones. Of course we're having expensive or ultra premium deluxe gaming laptops, but that is not the main focus. So the power supply. So this looks kind of basic, comes with a 12-volt normal, let's say 36 watts of an AC adapter with a tiny barrel jack connection. Well, we'll see what we're getting more inside of the package. So this is, I'm guessing, the control details and the stick to... Wait, what? And the stick to quality? What? In other words, the quick start guide. So my explanation about... Is there even some English? Oh yeah, there we go. So the touchpad and all of the communication ports and what's going on. Is it me or does it actually show Windows 10? Okay. Nevertheless, let's take a close look at the laptop. There's a lot of styrofoam. So the overall size is similar to most of the laptops I actually reviewed here, or at least most of the gaming laptops I've reviewed here on the channel. But this is more like a premium solution, but still in an affordable way. So let's remove the sleeve over here, and oh yeah, we got a lot of rip and tear of plastic. So when it comes to the overall quality, when it comes to the top, this looks kind of nice. I must say it's always a little bit of an interesting story that you can see some of the laptops have a lot of, let's say, plastic to it. Some of them still have, let's say, a metal case, but this is all plastic so far I can actually see. But what is interesting when it comes to the technology is actually when you're going to be opening up. Here we're going to be having something that you don't see very often. And that's this particular part. You do have an extra display inside of the laptop itself. But what made me really intrigued by this is that having a tiny display in an affordable, cool way. And so let's do a quick overview about this laptop, but let's turn it on by holding this button over here. It's interesting, sometimes some of these laptops do actually have this particular button for turning it on and off. So what is absolutely awesome that it does comes like with premium gaming laptops with a nice RGB keyboard light up feature. But actually the downside is of having a display over here is that we're going to be having less room for the keyboard. And I mean, like, that's not like a super bad thing or so, but you do see that we're having a little bit tiny cute little keys that are comparable with like smaller models. So it's one of the concessions they needed to make, of course. However, we do have like this massive trackpad, and I must say that it's very responsive. And you know, also have the micro switches over here. And I must say that when it comes to, let's say, the overall configuration, so we do have like this massive touchpad, so that is absolutely great. So what I understand of this is a fingerprint, if I'm seeing it correctly, and then of course we're going to be having the overall quality of the keyboard, and I can tell you the feel itself is absolutely not disappointing. At the side we find surprisingly a lot of different connections. We do have a normal USB that I'm actually surprised by. We have the input for the power supply, we do even have an HDMI out and a USB-C connection. At the right we have another normal USB connection, then we have a headphone jack, and we have a micro SD card input slot. And interesting that in the hinge they implemented the webcam, if my camera wants a freaking bloody focus. No, it doesn't. Yeah, there we go. So this laptop utilizes two displays, and I think it's pretty cool. However, the top one over there isn't a touchscreen at all, so that's going to be old school. I think they did it because to keep the low production cost, at least like the price down, to make this thing still a very nice affordable solution. But underneath over here we do have ourselves a touchscreen, and I think that's pretty cool. So with this second screen we do have touch, and I think that's kind of cool. But where can you use it for? Maybe you can use some shortcuts, or in this case you can go to some doom scrolling, going to Facebook, Instagram, and you can just go all crazy with swiping. Let me know in the comments what kind of things you can actually do with it more, but this is what I think that can be really interesting. Having dual screen, but this one, let's say if you're going to be doing streaming, maybe you can just put some information in there about the chat, I think it's kind of cool, and it will give some really cool, yeah, let's say extra options. So regarding the chipset itself, they're using the Intel N100. That's something that we have seen many times before now in mini PCs, having the memory that is 16 GB in total, utilizing only one SSD, and having over here the onboard Intel graphics. But how about upgrading? What can we do for maintenance? One of the things I find interesting that they went for the option to actually put a special door over here. And with door I mean, of course, the piece of plastic that we can easily remove. Okay, that's not the right screwdriver. It's always like hunting for which one do I need. Is this the one? No, it's still more tinier. Man, I need to have my special screwdriver set. The one that utilizes the smallest of the smallest. Can I open it now? Yes. I can. But let's remove the two screws over there. And I think that this way we can just fairly easy remove this piece of plastic, because the bottom part is out of plastic. So Jesus, open freaking up please, thank you. So how about the brands they're using? And that is one of the things I want to say hating about it, but they're just using sometimes the brands I have never heard of. So it seems to be they are utilizing a 60 GB over here. And when it comes to the DDR4, 2668 MHz, and there's no dual configuration, but you can swap it out fairly easy. I must give them extra kudos for that. King Sand, is this like Kingston, rip-off from Kingston's? King Sand, what the heck. The P600, I personally never heard of this brand before. Actually, this is the first time I've ever seen it. But King Sand, let me know in the comments, do you have any experiences with it? And is it going to be anything good? Because with those brands I don't really know, besides Samsung or Kingston or Crucial, yeah. But another thing you can do is just switch as main display, and we can do pretty wicked stuff. So let's play some Fruit Ninja on the second screen. So let's see how that actually works out. So it makes no sense actually doing this, but you know, it's kind of cool. So let's take a close look at some gameplay. Oh yeah. Oh, no, that didn't work. Well, one of the interesting things is that we can also use it to read actually documents. You know, and this is one of the things that you're going to be needing some glasses, or you're going to be zooming in like crazy, because the screen is very bright and very detailed. But still, if you're going to be looking at it, it's going to be very tiny, simply because of the do of, let's say, the display itself. But yeah, this is another thing you can do with the second screen. But what is it with the specifications, what I'm actually running? So the laptop itself running on the N100 chipset that we have seen before with many mini PCs. It's a very common Intel N100. I must say the overall performance, I must say that we're for, let's say, a low-end entry chip, it's not super bad. So let's see, we're going to be having DDR4, 16 GB. Graphical wise, we have the onboard Intel Iris, if I'm saying it correctly. And that's actually it. There's nothing much more to actually see, because the Intel N100 is only like using a max TDP of 6 watt. And that's convenient if you want to use this for just basic usage for quite a long time. But playing just some indie games on the N100, it's not going to be a problem whatsoever. And I think this is such a very cool overall feature of the N100 chip. What I also am kind of actually like surprised by is just how good the freaking audio is of this thing. Wouldn't expect too much from it, but you know, this is not bad at all. I've been putting on like 50% of the maximum volume, and particularly when it comes to the mid and high, it sounds really good. But with the recording you can actually see how beautiful the display is. And I must say that I'm kind of surprised when it comes to the overall, let's say, just beautiful and details of the panel they're using. And so this thing is still running on full frames, 60 frames, 1080p, and we still have like some GPU power and CPU power left. However, this is absolutely a lot of fun and I'm always pressing the wrong button. But when it comes to two-dimensional games, you can play them without any problem. But how is it when you're going to be getting into some more difficult games to actually play? Think about some older three-dimensional stuff. To begin with, just loading up the mini motor Racing X takes freaking forever. Yeah, that's not a good start. And that are just going to be the overall problems with these, let's say, simply just a low-powered laptops. It's absolutely a miracle that we can just play these games. I have no idea what actually happened. Did I touch the pad? Yeah, I did. My mistake. But this is absolutely pushing it to the limit with full usage of the GPU. It's running on 1080p. Having 40 frames per second. Oh! Oh! But if you just want to play some Sonic Mania, this is not going to be a problem. And particularly with these two games, we're going to be looking at the beautiful colors. This is such an overall pleasant experience to look at this display itself. So for just a simple indie gaming, you can just have a lot of fun with this. But maybe some older games can also be a fun thing to check out. But you're already seen with the Mini Motor Racing X. Yeah, I did really struggle big time there. But let's take a close look at some emulation performance, and we can actually play some PlayStation 2 on native resolution. We can also do a little bit of tweaking if you want to. You see that it does struggle. Wow, I must say with this particular game, you can just hear how freaking loud the audio goes, but also the high pitch it is. But it does sometimes drop here and there. Or some wipeout with the PlayStation Portable. Let's go with 5x rendering resolution. It does struggle, so I think I actually need to just lower the overall frames per second with some frame skipping, or I'm going to be needing to implement different kind of configuration of the upscaling, but so far this looks pretty good. But when it comes to just performance, we can also do a little bit of tweaking here. Let's say we're going to be putting it on 4 times, and this way we can just tweak per game to see what's going on. But the overall performance, yeah, I must say that it's quite good. But let's take a Dreamcast, we can also do some upscaling, having some full HD upscaling to the situation. But this looks pretty good, and having some great performance. You can see that this struggled a little bit, so with the M100 we do need a little bit of tweaking, but let's be honest, it's kind of cool that we can actually play this game. So this tiny laptop comes with pretty cool features. So the touchpad of this thing is massive, and the extra screen is of course in question, where can you actually use it for? It's kind of cool that they implemented this. Normally I can remember that I only see stuff like that on like really expensive gaming laptops. It comes with a really beautiful display, and I really enjoy myself playing these games like Sonic Mania because they run pretty good. Or pretty good, they run just excellent. But we have the option to even do a little bit of an upscaling. Let me know in the comments what do you think of a laptop like this. What kind of functionalities would you give it? Thank you all for watching, and it would be great to see you in the next video.